Hi everyone, I'm Kai Brightly, and I decided for my Patreon that I would go ahead and do a few readings of some of my work, some stuff I published, some stuff I'm working on. I thought I would do a reading of If You Give an Incubus a Cookie. I'm not really sure about the specifics of what I am and I'm not entirely allowed to do since this is a published work in Dreamspinner Press's, oh well, it's backward. Didn't realize it'd be backward. All right, it's the Simmer Anthology. Um, and this came out last year. If You Give an Incubus a Cookie started out, it was originally supposed to go in a Valentine's Day anthology that Dreamspinner Press decided not to do. But then they were doing Simmer, which every story in this book has a recipe with it. And If You Give an Incubus a Cookie had a food theme going on with it, along with the Valentine's Day theme. But I was never very happy with it because I don't do short stories well. Um, and I had a lot of trouble shortening the story down to an acceptable level for an anthology. So I mean, I guess if you read it, you'll see what I mean. It's definitely clear that it could have stood to be at least twice as long, maybe even a short novella rather than a short story. But I'll go ahead and read some. I'm kind of awkward about this camera thing, so you don't even have to watch me reading it. Like, if you want to turn your computer away and just maybe, I don't know if my voice is that nice to listen to, but I'm gonna read part of it. Like I said, I'm not sure I can actually read the whole thing, because it is part of an anthology. I have no idea. I mean, it's my copyright, so I guess I could, if Dreamspinner Press doesn't want me to do this, I could take it down. But I'll read part of it, and I'll try not to be embarrassed because, I wrote it, even though it's kind of erotic in nature. Okay. If You Give an Incubus a Cookie by Kai Brightly. And this starts with Hal. Hal. He thrusts his hips up hard, almost unseating me. It hurts. Not the cock in my ass. That's fine. I need his orgasm to fire off so bad my insides are one big cramp. I try to keep my face blank. I've had clients stop mid-thrust when my body's gasping for their soul energy because I look sad. My hunger for his orgasm hurts from the tips of my hair to my toenails. Every fucking cell in my body is on fire. I waited too long because I hate this dance. I knew going 4 days would make this do or die, but I couldn't force myself to find someone. I've been having too many thoughts about someone I can't have, shouldn't want. Kyle, sweet man that he is, almost didn't leave the coffee shop. He'd babbled on about how he wasn't a cheater as I sat down on his lap, but then I pressed my lips to his plush mocha sweet ones, and he crumbled. But I am sex. Everything about me breathes it into the air. My very nature makes me entrancing. It's not like he didn't have any choice. He did for sure. If he wasn't okay with stepping out on his relationship, deep down somewhere, he could have still fended me off. I've had it happen once or twice, maybe 3 times at the outside. Most men do want it, though. They're so easy. Random sex isn't the worst thing that could happen during the course of most men's day. Demon, I've been called. I had a priest make the sign of the cross at me once, back in '52. That was precious. Then he fucked me stupid. My face hasn't changed since that day. I don't age. I'm not even sure if this unholy infection will let me die. Kyle, his smooth pale cheeks gone red, lips twisted and straining so hard it makes me want to laugh, pumps up harder into me, and I let him, riding this out. He's not hitting my gland and I don't move around, so he does. I'm just not into this. When I was, oh, messed up. When I first was stuck with the curse, the daily hunt for sex was fun. I took to it with gusto. This is a flashback. You can't really tell, but if you were reading, you'd be able to. We were in the burned out back room of the bar, still dirty with soot from the fire that somehow started when we got raided. Being a speakeasy bartender meant the prohibition officer pretty much had me over a barrel. I didn't want to go to jail, so when he got that fiery look in his handsome blue eyes and shoved his way into my dance space, arms engulfing me, stealing my air, dazzling me with his good looks, I let him. His hand over my slacks on my swollen cock sealed the deal. I found myself muscled down and naked, ass in the air, faster than you can shake a stick. I craved it. God, I begged for it. I never wanted any man like I needed to have him inside me. Do you want to be like me? Please say you want to be like me, he whispered in my ear while he worked his monster into my ass with spit, hope, and my willingness the only thing smoothing the way. Yes, come in me, make me scream. Please, anything. I'll be anything for you, I promised, spreading myself open with hands on my ass cheeks like the slut I'd always been. I'll never forget the way he slammed his hips home. He fucked me like no one ever has since. He filled me with his seed and a clawing, never satisfied curse, and I kind of wanted that a little too, even though I didn't know what I was asking for at the time, and he sure as shit didn't tell me. A slap on my ass brings me back into the moment. I'm riding a perfectly attractive man. He has a solid jaw with heavy brows and greenish gold eyes I might call chartreuse if I were in a fanciful mood. He's a lot taller than me with an impressive cock that smacks in and out of my ass, stretches me, fills me, burns because he didn't use enough lube. I wish it were enough to satisfy me. I shake my head, try to banish the memories. My progenitor is probably dead by now, the one that passed us on. I'd accepted it in the throes of passion, and he was released from his own curse. And if he isn't dead by now, he's frail, living out the end of his life, while I'm still here, young, my hair still dark and curly, my toned muscles still covered with soft, smooth skin. Kyle scrunches his face up harder. I grin and hope he doesn't open his eyes. If I were chasing my own orgasm, I'm sure I wouldn't care, but I can't handle it. Give me a hand, cowboy, I murmur. Stupidly, he pries a hand off my hip. I use it to steady myself as I rise up enough to move without popping him out of my asshole. It takes a few seconds of acrobats, but I turn around with him inside me until I'm pointing toward his feet, and I don't have to worry about laughing at his ridiculous faces. Fuck, you're awesome, totally worth the money. You're the cowboy, he laughs, and brings his hands back to my hips as I raise and lower myself. My thighs burn with the strain. Ride me, pretty boy. The slap on my ass stings more this time, and I roll my eyes. Take it, you want it. He thrusts his hips upward and in a hard stab. It hurts a bit, and I grunt. At least he didn't call me baby or sweetie or doll. I hate that the most. Hook up with a guy, and he thinks he has the right to call you whatever he wants. I sigh as I catch sight of myself in the mirror over the beechwood dresser, bouncing on the handsome body underneath me. The surface is scattered with expensive cologne, cufflinks, and a few watches. This entire place is swanky, overdecorated, and I look like one more costly flourish the man who bought me for an hour decided to add to this room. I close my eyes so I don't have to watch my bored face and hate myself. I started this, not him. This was my choice. I chose living. After a few minutes, he grips my hips hard, urges me to fuck myself on him faster. His moment rushes up in him, and when his heat spills inside me, my body clenches around him. And that hurts too, because I wasn't relaxed from the sex. I wasn't enjoying myself. So much about this hurts. My heart clenches. Warmth, not quite an orgasm, but still wonderful, spreads through my body from our intimate connection. Instantly, I feel better. Consuming his orgasm is like a night of long, deep sleep, and an energy drink delivered all in one go and a jolt from his cock to me through my ass and out into every hungry molecule of my body. I sag against him, but he fumbles his hands on me. He isn't propping me up anymore. When I glance over my shoulder, sure enough, he's passed the fuck out, cock still hard inside me. Son of a bitch. I haven't managed to squirm off him yet when a door opens and closes somewhere in the large apartment. I freeze. Fuck no. Footsteps clomp through the living room and I tense. Love, where you at? A deep voice calls from somewhere too damn close for my comfort. I scramble, but not fast enough. My ass aches when I pull off Kyle's prick. I have a moment to wonder if that's even his real name as I clench my teeth. The door opens and I roll off the bed, dive for my pants. What the? Kyle's significant other is a musclehead, and that's all I register as my eyes travel upward over snow boots, dusty salt-stained pants, excuse me, past a sweat and grime-stained jockey shirt to pissed-off narrow eyes. I try to step into briefs and jeans at the same time. It's a maneuver I am unfortunately all too familiar with. I buckle my belt in a flash. What the fuck? He barks at the bed. My client startles awake, blinking at the ceiling with a dazed smile until his eyes skitter to the man, panting like a bull near the door. I pull on my sweater and step into my sneakers. Fuck my socks. Don't need 'em that bad. I don't want to try to dart past him, but I don't want those fists clenched at his sides sinking into me either. I'm pretty fond of being in one piece. I'm sorry, it's not really cheating. Kyle flushes bright as he glances down his body, still hard and shiny with lube and cum. His boyfriend snorts and becomes even more bovine in my mind. I try not to move so he won't charge at me. He shuffles closer to the bed, and there's a moment where I can see the shift in him. He's not going to immediately pound either of us. I start to edge toward the door, but stop when he transfers his attention back to me. He scrutinizes me, and even after all this time, a dull, embarrassed flush sweeps my body at his frank assessment. Okay, explain. He's a gigolo, Kyle says, waving a drunk hand my direction. I wince at the death glare that gets me from his hulk of a boyfriend. I force my shoulders back and discreetly search for my coat on the floor with no joy. Must have left it in the living room. You gave that guy money? I frown and run a hand through my hair. Fuck him. Well, when's the last time you let me fuck you? Kyle snarls, drawing the sheets around himself. Oh no, domestic shit isn't my forte. I inch toward the door. You said you didn't care. I'm startled by the plaintive note from the gigantic man. Guess everyone has feelings. They're off arguing, and I'm pretty sure they've forgotten about me. I grasp the edge of the roll of bills in my pocket. I have to do this, right? I'm a fucking incubus. I have to have sex, steal a little life to keep on with my own. Why shouldn't I be able to survive too? I'm basically the best hooker ever. Can't pass on a disease. Always guarantee an orgasm. No one can accuse me of a poor work ethic. That's for sure. I smile to myself and edge a few more steps toward the door. Kyle's significant other advances toward the bed. I spare a second or two of worry for my client, but then that rage is turned my direction. Where do you think you're going? If you can do one, you can do us both, Kyle's boyfriend spits out at me. I freeze. I could do that. My stomach sours. Under different circumstances, I might go ahead with it, help them let this be nothing in their relationship other than a shared adventure. But there's violence around the side of his mouth. His shoulders flex where they're outlined under his tight shirt. Too many bad nights flow through my memory. I force my legs to move and run, arms pumping as fast as I can for the front door. I'm not sure I can die, but I'm not about to push my luck. My leg muscles feel like putty as I fumble with the lock on the door. Sometimes I wonder why I even bother. I'm a blight on humanity. I should chain myself in a hole somewhere and let nature take its course. Let my body eat me alive until I'm nothing. But selfishness pushes me to keep living this life, keep clawing for every day in the sun. As the clock clicks open, I cry out in triumph. A hand lands hard on my shoulder, and I'm spun into a punch to the face. Pain bursts over me in a bright wash. I'm shoved out into the open hallway. I catch a fist to the stomach and struggle for breath as I go down on my knees. Blood drips onto the carpet. I curl in on myself while I try to catch my breath, waiting for more hurt that doesn't materialize. Come back here and I'll fucking kill you, the large man snarls at me before he slams the door. I guess that's fair. I struggle to my feet, and my fingers come back from my throbbing lip covered in blood. I stole a year of his lover's life, give or take. He made me bleed. Shit, my coat, I grumble to myself as I stumble toward the elevator. When the door dings open, I appreciate the pristine chrome and glass lobby, even though I'm bleeding. It's nice when I don't have to slum it. As I walk through the glass doors into the thin sunlight, my breath is stolen by the frigid air. Fucking February. Snow twirls all around, getting caught in my eyelashes as I stumble toward a cab parked down the street. Better get my lip checked out. Another incandescent stab at pain flashes behind my eyes as I tongue the cut. It will heal and fast, but if it's bad, I'll need stitches to make sure there's no noticeable blemish on my face. Instinctively, I run a hand down my arm to the scar to the scar there that's still visible with my clothes off. Knife wound was almost my throat, hadn't gone away completely because I ignored it. When I get closer to the cab, the man behind the steering wheel, more like a kid really, hops out. He gives the impression of a sturdy twig, and his stark, concerned face goes slack with surprise as he opens the back door for me. Hospital? His heavy accent reminds me of the Caribbean. I'm sorry, guys. I cannot do a Caribbean accent. It's just not in me. So imagine that. Yes, please. With a great start to Valentine's. Oh, sorry. Yes, please. What a great start to Valentine's week. If I don't get fixed up in a hurry, I'm going to lose money. The week leading to the day is always nuts. And now I need a new coat on top of getting my rent in on time and paying the hospital. The cabbie adjusts the heat till it's blasting, and I'm eternally grateful for small favors as he pulls out into the mostly empty street. Okay, now I'm going to read the next section. And then after this section, I think I'm going to stop because, like I said, I'm not really sure if I'm allowed to do this or not. So, Porter. I'm going to vibrate out of my skin. It's been such a bad winter. I stomp my feet to try to rid myself of the antsy horribleness that comes with the excess energy, prana, swirling inside me, a strange ethereal dance that won't get better until the first taste of spring. I check my watch while I ignore the never-ending ebb and swell of my nature. Can't do anything about it till I get home tonight anyway. When will he get here today? My favorite regular. He has brown eyes that remind me of butterscotch chips. Skin so pale and perfect, it makes me dream of apple blossoms. His dark hair is shot through with red in a way I've only ever seen in black calla lilies. Streaks of it blend here and there in curls and brush the collar on the tight shirts he favors. He always looks so refreshed, so full of life. His bright smiles bless me when I hand him cookies. His favorite is chocolate chip. Of course he'd like chocolate. I sigh to myself. A throat clears down into my left. I lean forward over the counter of my small food truck until I can see the short Asian woman with her accusing eyes. Today's special? She asks me primly. I grin at her. She's the sourest little lady I've ever met, but she also tracks down the truck often. Good morning, Mrs. Lee. Lavender lemon sugar cookies. They're heart-shaped for the holiday. I sing-song at her while I wiggle sparkle fingers near my face. She harumphs at me, adjusting the parka she's wearing until I can see more of her cheeks framed by her bright green scarf. It has me longingly thinking of new growth leaves on trees. She frowns at me. My thoughts drift to him again. He's late. Today was the day. I've spent weeks working myself up to it, but I can't take it anymore. I'm going to ask for his name, ask for a date. I can't stand any more go-nowhere flirty smiles when we pass change back and forth. I need the distraction of a man like that right now in the dead of winter when the world seems so cruel, dead, frozen. I need life. I need passion. How much lemon? Mrs. Lee demands as she shuffles closer to glare at the glass cases on the register side of my truck where I have the cookies on display. They're cheerful yellow hearts dotted with purple flecks. I made the lavender bloom in my kitchen last night. A simple caress of my fingers on the potted stalks was all it took to have them bud and bloom in a tangy herbal riot. I'm sorry, guys. I got distracted. I totally forgot for a second that I was recording this, so I saw myself. All right, I'm going to get back to the story. One more plant alive and tended in my imitation rainforest. I shiver in the cold and bend down to crank up the knob on my space heater. I have on my light leather jacket, so I can still move easily and not knock things over. It's only 14 degrees out today. I can't handle it. They're medium lemony with a smidge of lavender. Everything's organic. I beam at her and she sniffs, running the back of her gloved hand over her cute round nose. $2 for one cookie? It's not that big. She glares at my price board on the sidewalk. I crank up the wattage on my smile. I'm on to her tricks. She's not getting free samples out of me today. Why don't you have a hot cocoa while you decide? I'll make it extra chocolatey for you, sweet cheeks. I don't care if I'm being over the top, bucket. I've got to be me. A smile flickers before she beats it into submission with an extra huge frown. I know I've won when she gives me a nod. I move off to the small milk steamer I have set up in the corner and get to work. I try to distract myself from checking my watch again by being extra careful to measure out twice as much chocolate as I usually use for the cocoa. I sigh. Where are you, lover boy? I finish making the drink, top it with an unholy amount of whipped cream, and waste no time presenting it to Mrs. Lee. Here you go. She nods at me, way too serious for a woman being handed a pile of chocolate, and daintily slurps out a mouthful. As she swishes it around like she's at a wine tasting, the snow starts to pick up into heavy, fluffy clumps, while I wait with bated breath. Finally, her dark almond eyes land on me, and her face relaxes. It's okay. She hits the O on okay hard, and I grin at her. 3 dozen of the lemon lavender and 3 dozen chocolate chunk. I have a party at the office. I do an internal happy dance. This is why I put up with her. Whenever I sell out for the day, I'm done, and she just took a good chunk of my inventory. I box and bag the sweets for her quickly, then wave her off without any further complaints, though I do think she's bitching to herself under her breath as she puffs away. Dejectedly, I lean a hip against the counter and crack my neck. Twisting it one way, then the other, shivers rack me, and I want to sit on the heater. I am made for tropical weather, damn it. What am I doing living in northwestern Pennsylvania again? Right, my father would never ever think to look for me here. I check my watch. 11:50. Where is he? It's my fault he doesn't have a name. I mean, he probably has one for sure. Who doesn't? I just don't know it. I shiver and stamp my feet again, tension radiating out from the core of me. I want to go home and tend to the plants in my apartment. I love to water them and help them grow. The tiniest flame of prana, life energy from me to them, and they stretch, blossom, fill my heart with life. I miss warm months when I can ditch this energy that's too much swelling inside me until I almost burst with it by walking around barefoot in the park. Then it doesn't take over all my idle thoughts. Well, all my idle thoughts that aren't full of bright brown eyes and remembered teases. Did it hurt? What? When you fell from heaven, did it hurt? Embarrassment paws at me, but I shrug it off. He was expecting a laugh from me, but he caught my blank stare. I'd wanted to crawl under the truck when he had to explain it to me, some obscure reference about angels from the Bible. Ask me about Ganesha and I'm good. I'm not exactly a devout Hindu these days, but I know about it. But the Bible? I've been here for 15 years, and even now I find myself learning new things. Boarding school in New York City was a real horrific learning curve. My father never appreciated how hard it was when I called him with regular updates. I can speak English with barely an accent, so I was golden in his book. He was all encouragement, but he never really understood. My affinity for nature comes from my mother, and though he knew I needed green space the same as she does, he sent me to that cold city. He wanted me to be the best botanist I could be, and I went to Cornell. I started down that road, but I shake my head. I don't want to think about it right now. I glance at my watch, then out of my truck. I'm parked near the Arboretum, which is usually a good spot because dog walkers are out in all weather. I can also take breaks and touch the trees when it's warm, but today it's depressing as their stark fingers wave naked in the wind. He's not here yet, and I'm done. I want to move on, go someplace else. If I can't make the plants grow, then at least I can wander, and that sort of takes my mind off the itchy, horrid repression of keeping my talents to myself. I could wake those sleeping trees, but that would hurt them and cause stir as well. The downtown hospital is always a good place to go for business, so I update the cookie card app to let my loyal customers know where I'll be and close down the truck for the drive. When I arrive at the hospital, I park the truck as near as I can to the front entrance without blocking any important emergency routes. As I get opened up again, push the button inside that lifts the side awnings, I stomp my feet against the returning cold. It's marginally better here than near the dead park because I don't mind seeing the man-made monstrosities downtown dusted in white the same way I do the trees. I can sense the frost in years below my truck, stymieing growth, and it shatters any happiness I've managed to hold on to this morning. When the earth sleeps, my heart wants to sleep too. My mother says it's because we're not meant to be in this climate. She raged when my father sent me away for school, to no avail. I take out my phone and her last text glares at me. Come home, think of your health. That's all she ever says anymore since I won't answer and talk to her. She wants me to come home for the arranged marriage she worked so hard to secure. Too bad I don't want a girl, like me or otherwise. In some ways, getting sent away to school was the best thing that ever happened to me. It took removing myself from the family to really discover myself. I grimace and shove my phone back into my pocket. Either no one has spotted me yet, or it's too cold out for cookies. I blow my breath into my hands, and a tingle skips along the tips of my fingers. I want to help something grow. Maybe I should get some plants for the truck. A crowd of women in scrubs heads my direction, talking and laughing. I smile and prepare myself for a storm of orders. I may never be a world-class botanist now that my father pulled my school funding, but I can do this better than anyone else. And fuck him for thinking he can force me home to marry. This is my one bad food today, a woman shivering in her hoodie and thin scrub pants, peachy cheeks blushed rose from the wind, informs me with a smile. She pulls her hood more snugly around her face, and there are laughs from her friends. I grin at her while she rattles off her order, but a long line is forming, so I don't chat. I hand her a cocoa and her cookie. What can I get you? I'm already asking the lady in line behind her. 45 minutes later, I've come to the end of the sweet seekers, and I'm on a doctor. He hasn't bothered with a real coat beyond his white one, which makes the pale man look washed out in the flurry, and he's bravely committed to eating his cookie near whatever warmth I'm losing from the food truck while he chokes down his scalding chai. Good day, Doc, huh? I ask as I sneak outside to set up my chalkboard sign. I don't do it when I didn't do it when I pulled in earlier. He shrugs and smiles. He's one of those guys who shaves clean, and while it sure looks professional, it makes him seem impersonal, especially when the black tie has hitched too tightly around his throat. It makes me want to cough in sympathy. Okay, I read that passage a little screwed up. What are you doing for Valentine's Day? He asks absently. I can tell he's searching for something inane, polite. I laugh. I have someone I was planning to ask out. I scurry back into the truck and close the door so I can linger over the heater. Good luck, he says, wiping crumbs off his lips. Can I get another? He asks sheepishly. I wink at him, and he chuckles as I bag up a sugar-crusted lemon lavender heart. Why did I write that? That's really hard to say. As I'm handing it off, I see him shuffling down the sidewalk. I flutter my hand up to cover my own fast-beating heart where it flops around. He seems to be making his way to my truck. He doesn't have a coat on. What is it with idiots not wearing coats today? As he gets closer to the truck, he glances up at me. I can't rein in my gasp. Your mouth! Oh! He has stitches on his bottom lip, a black rough line breaking up the orchid pink. I frown and rip open the door to my truck so I can stumble onto the icy sidewalk. He gives me a broad grin that causes his brow to furrow, and then he settles on a more constrained smile while he traces the ragged line with his tongue. The fire of life tickles through my veins, and I take an immediate vested interest in that flicker over his lip. My heart kicks up even faster. Sweat trickles in a rapidly chilled line down my spine. Belatedly, I realize what I've done when I'm standing, looking down into the mischievous glint of his lovely eyes. I know. He hunches in on himself when a particularly violent gust of wind sweeps along the street. It cuts to the bone, even with my coat on. I missed you this morning. He curls those enticing lips into a tiny smile as snowflakes dust his dark hair. If anyone could make me appreciate this dismal season, he could. Another blast of wind has him shivering hard. I take my keys and phone out of my pocket, toss them onto the counter, and unzip my coat. It's not that heavy, but it will help. He starts to shake his head when I strip out of my coat and I hold it out. No, thanks, but I can't. I mean, I couldn't possibly. He steps away from me. I walk around him and drape it over his shoulders before I head back into the truck, leaving him to decide to take it or not. When I get up to where I can lean around and see him standing beside the menu board, he's staring at my coat like it might turn into a snake and squeeze the life out of him. He blinks up at me and I make a shooing motion at him. It's not like you don't know where to find me to return it. He growls like he's fighting himself into taking it. My heart blossoms full and light as I watch him carefully and pull it on and zip it up. As I watch him carefully, whoops, I added an and in there. As I watch him carefully pull it on and zip it up, he cuts an uneasy look at the doctor who's still milling around, picking at his second cookie. I smile politely since he's always a pleasant customer. Can I have the day's special? The doctor stares at him, which I don't like. I fight a frown. Something peculiar seems to take over the man I've been flirting with. It's never happened in all the times we've interacted. An endearing blush spreads over his pale face, and his eyes find the ground. He doesn't flirt with me. He doesn't smile at me. I'm not sure what's going on, but my teeth clench and a flash of anger spirals through me as I eye up the customer who seems to be responsible for it. I want him gone, but the sidewalk is free as far as I know, and I can't make him. One of the few drawbacks to having a mobile establishment. Is lemon and lavender okay? I know you prefer chocolate, I say with a smile, hoping to coax him out of whatever mood has taken him over. Want a cocoa too? He's nodding before I've finished talking. Finally, I get another glimpse of his face and a quirk of his lips. Any cookie you make is good, just a ticket to unfuck my day. He shakes his head, sending clumps of snow flying, and I grin with pride. Thank you. I rush around getting him a cocoa and add more chocolate than I should. At this rate, I'm going to be losing money on the stupid things. I bag up 2 cookies instead of 1. It seems indulgent and symbolic with what I want to ask. He hands me his cash, and I ring him out, then fork over the goods. As he's slinking down into the bag, I gird my loins. This is it. Valentine's Day is on Sunday. Only a few days away. It's one of the only American holidays I've always thought was wonderful, focused on love and romance and small kindnesses. I want to spend it with him. You gave me too many, he says, holding the bag toward me. I shake my head and smile at him. The corner of his mouth ticks up, and I take a deep breath, speaking in a rush. My name is Porter. Well, it's Akash, but everyone calls me Porter. He pulls his cookie bag protectively back to his chest while his face blanks for a few seconds, and then I'm blessed with a particularly warm smile. Hi, Hal. Hal Scand. Nice to meet you. His eyes crinkle at the corners, and his attention drifts down to his cookies. He brings them up to his nose, inhaling, and my heart expands in my chest as his eyes drift shut. Would you like to have dinner with me? It might be cliche, but I make a fantastic curry. My words are too loud and clipped. I want to slam my head against the counter. This is not going how I imagined it might. He snaps his eyes open, and he takes a few short steps away from me, glancing around himself, then back at me. He shoots his eyebrows up. That is... He casts an uneasy look at the doctor, and my heart sinks. Okay, I thought he was flirting, but maybe he's just one of those people, a natural jokester. Maybe he's not out. Maybe he doesn't like me. I stifle the depressive rise of disappointment in my chest. The anxious overbuild of energy inside me tangles with the sadness to turn into something truly horrible. I need so badly to spend a few hours with my plants. I trail my hand up my chest to the place over my heart, and I rub at it for a few seconds. I miss my jacket as the cold seeps into me. He clears his throat, cheeks flaming a deep scarlet briefly before it fades. I'll have to check my schedule, he finally says, darting his eyes from his cookies to me, with a hesitant curve of his lips. He perks up, standing a bit taller. Let me know tomorrow? Asking is my way of trying to assess whether or not I've scared him off for good, I guess. He nods, ducks his head before suddenly glancing at the doctor again, then takes off down the street at a light jog in spite of how slippery it is. I watch him until he disappears around a corner. When I can't see him anymore, I unleash a small victory dance around the inside of my truck that involves shuffling my feet in a circle around the space heater while I shimmy my shoulders to chase off the cold. A throat clears outside. I turn, ready to greet a new customer, but it's the doctor. The unhappy pinch of his eyes and the frown on his face is the kind of thing I imagine he might wear when greeting the family member of an accident victim. Oh no, did he find something horrible in his cookie? Yes? I could get in trouble for this, but he rubs a hand on his cheek, and I lean forward. He checks around like he's in a bad action movie. Dread builds up into a clenching mass of hurt along my shoulder blades. What? Is Hal ill? Does he only have a few weeks to live? Tears gather at the corner of my eyes while I wait. I treated him today. He's not going to date you. The doctor upends his chai, chugging it. I hold out my hands for his garbage. A small frustrated noise leaks out of my throat. Is he married? I demand. He hands the empty cup over, and I blindly toss it into the trash, never taking my eyes off his face. He's an escort. I stand up from my hunched spot and think. It's familiar, but I rack my brain and can't turn up what that means. I have a moment of frustration. No matter how long I live here, there always seems to be something to come along and make me feel dumb. What does that mean? I demand with a frustrated whine. A prostitute. He backs off from me, checking all around himself again. I'm stunned and sad because if that's Hal's occupation, he probably won't have time for me. I know it's looked on much differently here than it is at home. Even parts of India aren't very receptive to it, but where I grew up, it was considered a sacred calling, a duty to be respected. I stare at the glittery bits of snow in the air for a few seconds. Could you be mistaken? He's pretty upfront about it. He's been to the ER a few times in the last year, usually minor scuffles. The doctor shrugs, and since he's been so helpful, I pull out 2 more cookies and hand them over. He doesn't protest. The price of information ill-gained seems pretty cheap. It's cold out, getting late. Think I'll go home for the night. I decide as I flip off the heater and push the button to lower the awnings. I don't care if it might be rude. I'm almost sold out anyway. I hop out of the back of the truck and walk past the doctor to collect my menu board. I'm sorry. He grasps my shoulder as I walk by. I smile at him and shake him off. Glad you told me, I lie to him with a bright smile. Okay, and I've been reading for a while. I honestly didn't realize that this story was as long as it is. It's about 30 pages in the Simmer Anthology. Like I said, Simmer. If you give an Incubus a cookie, there is a delightful recipe for a cookie that it's backward. I'm gonna have to get a real camera. I'm not even sure how to pronounce this properly. That's horrible. The Nankatai? I don't know. Maybe somebody who's Indian could tell me. I got this from Divya's website. She was kind enough to allow me to use this recipe. It's for a cookie that's kind of like I've eaten them before, so I know what they taste like. I just can't pronounce them. They're kind of like a snickerdoodle, a little bit, sort of. All right, and if you want to know the rest of the story, I guess you're gonna have to buy Simmer and read it. And all right, thank you for sticking with me through this reading. I guess I was gonna say short reading, but it wasn't exactly that short because I'm looking at the time right now, and 32 minutes have somehow gone by. So thank you. My name is Kai Brightly. I write gay erotic romance. I have published several books. My most recent one is Trust Trade. If you want to find that, it's on Amazon and Dreamspinner Press, along with several other forums, actually. All right. Thanks again for watching and have a good night.